Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys today about Bachelor season 25 episode 2. We're dealing with Matt and his dates that he had on the show. Specifically, I want to talk about Sarah, Lauren, and also talk about Brie as well. And you know what? I think Matt is showing me the more sensitive, vulnerable side of how men can be and how a great listener looks as well. So guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for the notification of the what uploads, people. And for those of you who are returning as well, you got the minerals, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's get into the video. Let's talk about it. So we saw Matt go on several dates. He had it with Brie, had it with Lauren, Brie, and he had it with Sarah, the 2 dates. But he also had some great conversation with Lauren as well. First of all, I'm going to say this. Lauren, I did not see you before, but now I see you.
Really, honestly, exhausted.
You're exhausted?
Today was a lot.
It was a lot.
I felt like I was a kid again. You know what I mean? Like, There was like a loss of inhibition.
And let me just say right now, sis, you're looking buff. Like, listen, the melanin was popping different, like. I mean, she was looking succulent. And listen, I saw Kaylee before, but nah. Kaylee, I've got to put Kaylee to the background. Lauren, you're looking different, cuz. Just looking blismo. All right, cool. But let's talk about the dates that he had with Brie. He got on an ATV, went on a little ride with Brie, almost killed somebody's daughter by crashing the ATV by showing off. But they got into the hot tub and started having a little bit of a conversation. I want to say this, bro, it's not everybody's lips you got to be kissing. I mean, come on. It's 2021 and COVID is real. You're here just lips and everybody, you know what I mean? I saw that and I thought it was quite interesting. But after the hot tub, it was interesting actually, because even the hot tub part, you could see that she was trying to signal to
uphill battle for the rest of the night, trying to earn back Brie's trust.
I think you still have to find ways to redeem yourself after that. I think
Deal.
so.
Deal.
Okay, good.
that she wanted to kiss, in it, and it's interesting. He didn't make that initial first move straight away, whereas with Abigail, he felt more confident to do it. But with Brie, there was a slight hesitancy, right? In the fact that when they were in the hot tub, she had to like put a hand on her neck, and then she kind of moved her neck a little bit head towards or whatever, and there's a little pause, and then he moved, right? But he didn't make that move straight away, and I guess maybe he finds her really attractive, and the way that he even looks at her, I think he's in deep. I think the way he looks at her and Rachel, different. I think he's attracted to a lot of women, but Rachel and Brie, the way that he looks at them, it looks like desire. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. But they had a really interesting conversation. They spoke a little bit about their families and spoke about their absentee fathers and how that really influenced them in the.
And
I feel that.
Growing up, everyone would always ask me, like, well, where's your dad?
Yeah.
Don't you love your dad? But you still love your dad, right?
In their growing up. And I think that's really a great conversation, because I think it's a great bonding moment, but it's also something that is to make you aware that the impact of a dad not being there for men and women can be the same, but it can also be very, very different. In the sense of that a man growing up without the father figure will need other male figures to be able to plug in for the masculine energy and the ways of a man. The woman would be needing the way that how men move, so that when she deals with men, she knows how to deal with it in a less masculine way. What I mean by that is a less independent vibe, okay? And to help keep that femininity and preserve it, because what can happen is, for a woman who hasn't got a father figure, is that she learns to do things herself and becomes very independent. Meeting certain guys who are willing to do the masculine, or should say the giving in the relationship, she may find it a little bit more difficult to do that, or she may feel she's not having as much freedom due to the fact that the male would want to do things for her, and she might misconstrue the doing as trying to not give her freedom due to what they've experienced. I'm making it very generic. And like I said, for a male, not having that father figure can mean that obviously operating more in the feminine, right? Which is that, you operate more in the emotions and the feelings. You operate more in, I guess, the way that you perceive relationships, okay? You're looking to always fill the gap, and it can be a lack of leadership sometimes in those areas, or the way that you lead can be from a very toxic place. Listen to what I'm going to say, if you haven't filled that arena with very good masculine energies who can teach you or show you, or you model yourself after, because you are going to find your masculine role model somewhere, whether it's in the home, whether it's outside of the home, whether it was at football, whether it's at boxing, whether it was in the streets, in the code, whatever you're going to find, you're going to have to find your masculine energy role model. Same with women when they don't have a father who they grew up with, okay? You're going to find somebody to model that behavior on. So it's interesting that they both spoke about the need for the feeling of desire that they had, the feeling of desire they had for their fathers, right? They really wanted to be able to be involved with their fathers, and they had a longing for their father, and they spoke about how people would question them about the desire for their fathers, and how this desire drove them towards friends who had bigger families, who had more intact families. And so, as I'm saying to you see how if they were explaining that when they were young, they were yearning for that father figure, and where it leads them to other families. So just think about it. Even, and I'm not just talking about people who don't have fathers, those who do have fathers and their fathers are not really present, it will lead them somewhere else to go and figure it out, right? So, and if you don't have it present, you try to figure it out, and you fill it up with whatever you can fill it up with. So in this respect, when they were explaining their situations, it was a really powerful moment. So powerful that he actually started having saltwater wells in my eyes.
Myself in a relationship is that one person I can feel like this is my family.
I like that.
He actually, his eyes started to well up, and it's not the first time tonight. He's done it on 2 occasions. But he started to well up a little bit. Why? Because when she started to explain her story, they were connecting. And he said to himself, this is probably one of the first times he's really delved deep into what he's felt from a young age to somebody, especially of the opposite sex. Yeah, because what you're doing right now is really diving deep into your experiences and your mental attitudes and your experiences of what you've gone through, and then giving that to somebody else who's not necessarily somebody you know, is a stranger. And so these things can be very powerful moments when you build it with a friend. And when I say friend, the friend could be someone who you're going to try and be with. But when you're building that up with somebody who's a friend, somebody who gets you, somebody's on your mind like that, boy, it's a matters. It's a matters. So when you get someone like that, it builds such a connection to that person, because what you're saying is, I'm willing to share my deepest, darkest, crevices of me, and give you keys to doors that I normally wouldn't give to anybody. It's a level of vulnerability, but it's a level of intimacy. Okay, that he's asking for and given. And this is a big thing. In order for him to ask for vulnerability, he must also demonstrate vulnerability. And I believe he's doing so. And it's the way that he moves in these dates. When you watch him talking to Brie, you never get the instinct or the feeling that he's not listening and being courteous and taking in her information. Why? Body language.
Like, similarly, I always gravitated.
It's facing towards her. Eye contact, strongly intent. And then the conversation doesn't shift automatically from something else to something else. He stays on it, or he asks a thoughtful question towards a situation. So you can see that he's actually genuinely intrigued about the situation. And this is not the first time we saw in episode 1 when he dealt with Mari and asked her about, her family in Puerto Rico. This is a guy who's in tune, bro. That's in tune. He's in tune with, the emotions, and in tune with listening and understanding. He's in tune with that. And so, yeah, man, I saw that and I was very, very impressed by that. And I love that. And it's good to see a black man doing that. And some of you might say biracial, whichever you want to call it. I'm calling him black. It's good to see a black man like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and then obviously his conversation with Lauren, really intriguing. Again, Lauren looking fine, just looking fine. But really intriguing that he mentioned.
I want somebody who is a man of faith, because my dad's always told me like the key to his marriage with my mom and how long it is and how perfect and beautiful it is.
She mentioned about wanting a man of faith, and I just, I wonder if she wanted to say just you want a Christian, basically. Yeah, is that what you're trying to say? You want a Christian man? You want to? And sometimes I'm always trying to qualify, because when people say they want a man of faith, it doesn't mean they want a born again Christian. I want to make it very clear. So if you're watching this and you're not a Christian, or you are a Christian by you identify by it, I want to let you know there are Christians by label, and there are born-again Christians. Let me make a clear distinction for you. The Christian goes to church, does everything holy, does all the little sacraments and everything like that, but has never renewed their mind. They've never been regenerated. What does that mean? They have never got the Holy Spirit. They pray, they read their Bible, they say nice things, they do nice things. You know what I'm saying? They show all the godliness, but deny the power thereof. Why? Because they don't have God inside of them. If you are a Christian, the difference between us and everybody else, if you're born again Christian, is that God resides in you. That's what causes the transformation of the individual person. Why am I saying this? Because oftentimes what can happen is a conversation gets spoken about how people are religious or of a certain faith. Like he's mentioned about God several times. And obviously I can't qualify whether I listen to things and it sounds a bit like we're not sure if he's actually born again. Maybe he just enjoys God in that respect, right?
Growing up in the church, as I did, I've never led in a relationship with the fact that I am a Christian, because I feel like it's there's a preconceived notion with it, and it turns a lot of people off.
Because just because someone prays does not mean that. I mean, there are gangsters that pray, my friend. We see it in films all the time, right? There's gangsters that pray. Listen, people pray a lot. It don't necessarily mean they actually have a relationship and they are fully in one with God. I'm not saying whether he does or doesn't. I'm just kind of just putting it out there for you guys to make it very, very clear. There are Christian men and there are born again. But it's interesting in her conversation because she never mentioned any vulnerabilities. Now, it may be because she's not on a date, but she didn't mention any vulnerabilities. Well, not that we saw anyway in terms of the edit, and I don't know if that's on purpose, because sometimes these edits be nefarious, showing a black woman and she's dark skinned and not showing that she hasn't got any vulnerabilities. You know what I'm saying? But again, I'm being a bit cheeky. I don't know if that's the truth, and so I'm just kind of putting it out there as well. But it's interesting because of the way that he replied to the faith thing. He said, obviously, I don't often tell people that when I start that I'm Christian, and so I want to make this very clear to you. The Bible says, listen, Christ said, listen, if you're ashamed of me on earth, me too. When you get to the Father, I'll deny you. What does that mean? If you really give your life to Christ, it's almost like being wedded. In fact, we are wedded. If we're married to the Lamb. If you really have given your life to Christ, to Jesus, and you really are a Christian, someone who follows the ways of Christ because you have God inside of you, then you can't be ashamed. You can't be ashamed. In fact, but then I would also say this is depends on what level you are. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people are afraid of showing God, the God that they have, because the level that they're at. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's fair enough. We're not trying to dispute anybody's salvation. We're just trying to kind of bring a picture. But most people that have really got themselves into a place of God where they're really understanding him aren't ashamed to say, I'm a Christian. And not only that, they want relationships with other Christians. As far as I'm aware, I don't think everybody on the show is a Christian. So if I was doing the show, I couldn't date somebody who is not a Christian, but is cool with being a Christian. I need you to be born again.
With it, and it turns a lot of people off.
Yes.
And it's not something I've done. And you saying that is affirming. That's what I would like a healthy relationship to be built.
And that's what makes a difference. When you really have the Spirit of God in you, the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree? But this is not a sermon. I just want to kind of give it to you, break it down, because when we talk about these religions, right? When we're talking about Christians, when we're talking about Christians, we're not talking about those who go to church. We're talking about real born-again people who've been transformed. You understand? Yeah? So that was interesting when he said, obviously, he doesn't lead with his faith. I was like, why doesn't he lead with his faith? You're a Christian. You're born again. You want a girl also who's the same way, right? If you're born again. But maybe he isn't born again. We don't know. So I can't say 100%. But it was interesting because obviously when he came to her to give her the rose, Lauren couldn't smile at first. Now, and I wonder if that is because maybe I wonder if that is because maybe she was apprehensive about being ahead of herself, that she couldn't do it, or maybe it's a past thing where, you know, maybe you've been disappointed in the past, and so therefore you don't jump to conclusions. Because obviously he brought the rose, but it's the way that when he
I get a chance to spend some sort of time with you, and I didn't get that chance, and I really enjoyed our conversation tonight. I feel like we share a lot of similar values, and
she couldn't smile at that point. Like, she couldn't like be comfortable until he said, "Here's the rose," and then she broke into a smile. And I was like, I wonder if that's to do with some walls that are up. I wonder if that is to do with the way that maybe people have dashed your disappointed you in the past, and so therefore you wait to the conclusion of the matter before you show your hand. Could be, I'm not sure 100%, but yeah, I mean, it didn't look like she was gonna give a smile until she had reached the end, which could be, like I said, it could be something deeper in there as well. And then he obviously had a date with Sarah P. And I think one of the interesting things, obviously, is that he wanted her to be vulnerable, and obviously she didn't want to be too vulnerable too soon. And I totally understand that. When you're new to somebody, you don't want to bring out all the dark goodies of your life to somebody just yet. One, because you don't know if it'll work out, and two, it's not everybody that is capable of handling your truth. And so I can understand that, but he wanted to push for that further. He asked again when they got to dinner, like, about her father, and then she explained to him about the fact that the father had ALS, and I saw the way he was moved, and I was like, rah. And I can understand why, because this guy is, empathetic towards plights. When you see him listening, he genuinely is listening.
And she would already be at school, and my dad would drive me to school and like do my hair, but just reciprocating those
listening. And so when she's telling her story, it's not abnormal that there is saltwater wells in my eyes. The saltwater wells were deep on the tips of the tear ducts, man. His eyelids were literally swimming in saltwater, bruv. It was ready to drop. You understand? And so I saw that, and I saw the way he connected with her. And so when she said that she felt comfortable talking to him, I genuinely believe that, because the way that he presents himself. When you are a good listener, you make an atmosphere conducive for the person to have a non-judgmental air, so that they can speak their truth and speak it freely. You understand? And so the topic was really, really deep. And when obviously she mentioned about the fact, she's been a carer for her father, quit her job, it just showed her heart for her father, and showed her heart in general, that she's a kind, nurturing, loving person. That's something that's attractive. Whether it's something he wants to get involved in, that's another story. And what I said, that I'm sure in the short term, yeah, he's thinking she's amazing, but in the long term, he's got to think,
if I can help him in any capacity now, getting in and out of bed and brushing his teeth and, feeding him.
I'm going to have to be part of that in some shape or form. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to provide you some emotional care, or I'm going to have to be there with you sometimes, whichever it is. I'm going to have to provide in some shape or form. Now, somebody might say, oh, don't have to think about that now. No, that's a future thing. But yeah, I should be thinking about it. If I'm a man and I'm thinking about our future, I am taking all of this into stock. So I wonder if that will play against her into him choosing the person for the final. I wonder. I'm not saying if it is, definitely. So... it was interesting that she managed to open up eventually, and one of the things I will say as well is this, that again, he appraised her. Watch what he does when she opens up finally. He appraises her and said, look, it's been an honor that you've been able to share something with me and talk with me, etc., etc. So he's made her feel great about sharing something. Let me tell you something, that's the way to do it. When you really want to listen and hear people's true story, when you do it, you thank them, you praise them, you appease them for sharing, because it's never easy to do. So the fact that he does that is high quality level of listening skill that he has. And so any woman that gets him is going to be very, very happy. They're going to be pleased. They're going to be very, very pleased because he will listen. He will listen to them, you hear them. And so that's very important as well. And what I would close out with saying is, I feel like over the dates that he's had, Bree definitely is the one to watch out for. Like, Sarah was good, but I didn't see the connection there. as much. Obviously, he couldn't kiss her, or I don't know if he did kiss her, but it probably wasn't the right time if he did. I'm not sure. But definitely with Brie, I can see that the very first conversation they had when she was in the emerald dress, they conversated and she broke down her vulnerabilities, and he was like, yeah, that's me too. And then this conversation here with her today in dinner, and then the whole fireworks situation where they kissed, and look, I think he's got his eyes on Brie. I think she'll end up winning it, if I'm honest with you. As long as she doesn't do anything foolish, she'll end up winning it, because they've got something, and the attractive level seems to be but that's just my opinion. But hey, guys, if you have a different opinion, please comment down below. Let us know your thoughts as well down below. We'll see you soon. And make sure you enjoy, like, share, subscribe. Appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded.